Hello, I'm going to show you today how you can remove the background from a photo. This is a very useful skill you'll find handy when you're making all different types of campaign materials, as well as any other kind of marketing materials or posters. Very, very handy skill. Now I'm going to do this using a free piece of software called GIMP. That's GIMP. And this is something you can download easily online. Just search for download GIMP, and you'll find where you can download it for both Mac and PC and Linux. It works on all computers. I've used it for years, and it's completely free. You could think of it as a free version of Photoshop. And the thing I use it for most often actually is taking backgrounds out of photos. So there's a couple different photos that you might end up working with. I'm going to show you an easy one to start with. So I'm just going to go to File and Open, and I'm going to grab the photo that I'm going to work with first. This one here. Okay, so as you can see, we've got Greg here. He's on a white background, and I want to get rid of this white background. Now this is going to be super easy because the background's all white, and Greg has a nice bald head there, which means there's not a lot of, it's not going to be too complicated to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Layer and Transparency, and we've got to do Add Alpha Channel. So basically adding an alpha channel basically means we're going to add, transparency as an option on this image. So I do that. Now the next thing I'm going to try to do is just select all of the white area here around Greg. So I'm going to use this fuzzy select tool, as they call it. So that selects a contiguous region on the basis of a particular color. So I'm going to click on that, and you can see there's these kind of moving lines that show what has been selected. So that is great. So I've got all the white stuff selected. So next I'm going to go to Edit and Clear, and boom, we see all that white got removed there. And I'm just going to go Select None so we can take a look at what we look like. And we are pretty close there. Now if you zoom up a little bit closer, and you can do that by pressing Shift and the plus sign, you'll see there are still a little bit of there's still a little bit of junk kind of around the ears and some other parts of the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this other color select tool. So this will select everything that is of similar color, no matter where it is in the image. And I'm going to click over here, and that's selecting most of that. Okay, let's zoom back out again here. Now I am going to take this eraser tool, and you can adjust the size if you like, bigger or smaller, but right now this is a pretty good size little brush. And because I have that white stuff selected, I can go over it with this eraser, and it's only going to delete stuff that I have selected. So notice I'm going over Greg's face here, and it's not deleting anything because there's no white stuff on his face that's being selected. So I'm just going to basically go around his image and clean up that white residue that got left there. Now be careful, he's got a little bit of a shiny spot there, so you want to not delete too much of that. Okay. Now you might notice sometimes that depending on the type of hair of the person in the photo, you might have a few more challenges in terms of doing this, and also depending on the color of the background. This is something that just kind of takes practice. You'll develop different techniques. For example, sometimes you might have to select several different colors and kind of do several different rounds of deletion. until you're happy with it. Sometimes I ended up using the one of the other selection tools here to kind of cut out like an area. Let's say there's a bunch of hair sticking up and I just want to basically select that area of hair in a nice smooth way that won't look like it's ripped a tuft of hair out, and just delete that. So you would select an area, and just like we did before, we would go to edit, clear, and it would get rid of all that. Okay. Now I'm just going to get out of that. So now that we're ready with that photo, the last thing we want to do is export it. So I'm going to go to File, Export As, and if to maintain the transparency, it needs to be a PNG file. So I'm going to go change the extension on the file from .jpg to .png. So that's really important to make sure you do that. And I'm going to hit export. And just, you don't have to worry about anything here. It's all set right. So I'm just going to click export again. And we will see now on my desktop, I now have a version of this photo with a transparent background. So I mean, this is you can see gray here, but that's actually just that's the background of the preview thing here. This is actually has no background on it, so I can place this over top of a poster or something. Let's say I have a green image I want to place him on top of. It'll just show green here behind him. So that's a simple one. Now I'm going to show you one that's going to be a little bit more complex. Just wait for the beach ball of death to die down here. Okay, great. So let's get out of that. Okay, I'm going to open up a photo that has a background on it. Okay, where are we here? There we go, Gavin. Okay, so there we've got Gavin. He's by a river. He's got branches and trees and all kinds of stuff going on in the background around him. So for him, I'm going to use a little bit of a different method called foreground select. So I'm going to go to Tools, Selection Tools, and I'm going to use foreground select. And so there's a few different steps in foreground select. So the first thing that we get is just this kind of free selection tool. So I am going to kind of go around Gavin with this tool. You don't have to get right up to him. You don't want to cut any part of him off, but just get kind of as much of the background out as you can. Okay, connect them up. Okay, as soon as I'm done that, and I let go, this is what happens. So I got this blue part, and then I have this part in the middle. And now with this kind of paintbrush that I have here, I need to try to cover up as much of the part that I actually want to keep, which is basically everything that's Gavin, as I can. Now, it's okay if you don't cover everything up, but the most important thing to do to start with is to try to get any part of your foreground object or person that's of a particular color selected, because what this brush is going to do is it's learning, what colors belong to the object that you are trying to capture here. So I'm just gonna get a bunch of different parts of his sweater, because you notice that even though the sweater is one color, it's actually multiple shades because of how the light's shining on it. And So, just see, I'm not getting everything. And then I'm going to let go, and I'm going to see what it is all selecting, and we'll see if there's more that we need to cover up. Okay, hopefully the beach ball dies down right away. Okay, so it looks like we did a pretty good job. Now, what you want to look for right now is there are, actually there's some parts of Gavin that we lost there. So I'm going to put a little bit more around the edge here. And also anywhere where you see little blue flecks, like dark blue flecks like this on top of the object that you're trying to capture, you want to get those covered up with the paintbrush. Okay, so it looks like we're doing pretty good there. I'm just going to try letting it go again. Okay, so now we're pretty good actually. There's just a little bit of touch up to do. So we're finished with this step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hit enter. Okay, and now it's got Gavin selected here. So I want to get rid of everything else that's not selected. So I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to invert. So now instead of Gavin being selected, it's the background that's not Gavin that's selected. And just like last time, I'm going to go to edit, clear. And we can see it getting rid of the background. And so now there's just a little bit of cleanup kind of around the head, and that's usually where you're going to have cleanup, if anything, just because the head and the face is usually much more varied than the body, because you're wearing clothes of a particular color. So let's zoom up there. Now I'm going to try. So a lot of this is kind of very similar color. So I think I might be able to use the fuzzy select tool, or even the tool to select everything of that shade. Let's actually try that. Oh, no, that wasn't going to work. There's too much of Gavin's hair that's similar to that. So let's try the fuzzy select tool. Okay, well there's one. I'm just going to go clear that. You'll notice there's different kind of regions that you'll get, and you just have to keep finding and deleting these regions of similar color that you want to get rid of. Okay, some of that I might need to use another tool for. Let's just try to clean this up as best as I can. Oh, you know what? I'm going to undo that. It's a great thing. You can always go edit, undo, because I took a little bit too much hair off him there. Yeah, this is the part that's more like an art. And clear that. chunk by the ear here. Okay, so now I think to clean up a bunch of the rest of this here, I am just going to zoom in, and I'm going to start using another tool. So first of all, I'm going to try selecting everything of a similar color here and use the eraser, kind of like we were doing last time. There's a few different shades of gray, which is making it a little bit more challenging. So another thing I can do here is I can use the free select tool, like I was telling you about earlier. So this is an example of how I'll do that. I'm just going to trace kind of around the areas that I want to keep. Join that back up, edit, clear, and there, it's got a good shave there. I'm gonna do similar over up on this side here because we've got a bunch of stuff to clear away. It's gonna get a little bit of a haircut, but that is sometimes what it takes. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Okay. There, that should be a good chunk there that we can get rid of. Good. And we've got some over here, and because there's a little bit of beard there as well, I'm gonna see if we can use the eraser to get rid of most of that. Leave some of those whiskers intact. Now, sometimes it's really difficult to get this perfect, and that's okay. A little bit of imperfection, especially when you're looking at it at the micro level here. Depending on how this image is being used, if it's going to be just a small image on a business card, say, you might not end up actually being able to even notice little aberrations that you might see when you're up close. So it's just a matter of doing the best that you can under the circumstances. So I'm using the free select tool again to get rid of some of that. Let's see. Okay, we're looking pretty darn good there. I noticed before there were a few little parts here of the sweater that ended up getting deleted when we did the foreground select. So sometimes if there's something that you feel is going to be really noticeable, there are a few ways that you can deal with that. One is through using the cloning tool. So basically, it's this here, and yeah, you basically do shift. Wait, sorry. Back to the cloning tool. Wait, I'm forgetting the command now. Right. So on my computer, it is pressing Command and then holding down and then right-clicking on the area that you want to clone. So choose a part of the sweater that is similar to what you want to fill in. We're just filling in little bits that we think might be obvious. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you see little like white bits there. We can just kind of cover over those. Oh, I see we missed a little bit there that I'm going to get rid of right now. Boom. Let's see if there's anything else. Over on this side here too. Back to my clone tool. Fill in some of that. This can actually be really fun and relaxing. And if you get really good at this, you can use it to manipulate all kinds of images, cover up all your imperfections, whiten your teeth. Okay. I think that we might be good there. Yeah, look at that. No background anymore. So what I'm going to do, and sometimes what I do too is I'll use the fuzzy select tool, and I'll just check to see if there's any invisible kind of regions outside, like separated from the body, that that may not be fully transparent. Sometimes there's a little fleck of very light, like a very light, almost like translucent white streak or something somewhere, and that would then show up on whatever background you put this image on. So by using the fuzzy select tool and clicking somewhere outside of the body here, I can actually I can see that there's nothing else. We would see something else being selected around, apart from the body if we had any issues, and in which case you just go and select that area and delete it or use the eraser, whatever. So in this case, it looks like we're good. So I'm going to export this as well to transparent. File, export as, and I'm actually gonna even rename it to transparent so that we can just distinguish it from the file that has the background in it. And export. Okay. Boom. I'm gonna open up my transparent image here. And there we go. Transparent Gavin. Took him out of his background there. So yeah, I hope that you learned something today and that this will be useful for you. And let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'm using GIMP. It's free Photoshop-like software that you can download for Mac, Windows, or Linux. And there's lots of things you can do with GIMP aside from taking out backgrounds, but this is the main thing that I end up using it for. So thanks very much, and happy background deleting.